Whoa, you smoking.
It's very funny, we should love it.
Just that me.
You have 81 new emails.
Positive for thoroughly.
By the way, I think I left my panties in your car.
Hey, hi.
Surprise. You want to pretend like it never happened?
First warning sign, this movie's not going to be any good. PG-13. This is a movie that's clearly supposed to come out so the teenagers can take their girlfriends or boyfriends out to the movie theater, that go out on a Friday night or Saturday night and see this movie, talk about it with your friends on Monday, and then never think about this movie ever again. That's quite literally what this movie is. I mean, it's literally a teenage version of Fatal Attraction or Play Misty for Me, where you have Jesse Bradford as a high school swimming star who finds himself stalked by a teenage seductress played by Erica Christensen after a one-night stand. Shuri Appleby plays Bradford's girlfriend in this, and it's quite literally what you think it is. It's literally a teen version of Fatal Attraction, except for the MTV generation and PG-13, because heaven forbid if those teens can't see an R-rated movie, that's probably a lot better. But yeah, like I said, this is the type of movie that comes and goes. Like, it plays one weekend, and then all of a sudden everyone's talking about it on Monday. Maybe they go see it again the next weekend if there's nothing big coming out, and then they completely forget about it almost immediately. This is that type of a film, and I guess I could say it's not the worst overall. I mean, there's nothing that's absolutely horrible about it, but it's just what you think it's going to be. It's a PG-13, watered-down erotic thriller. I mean, and not even a good erotic thriller, not even a good psychological thriller, honestly. Like, it's really everything you think is going to happen, note by note, happens in this film. And like I said, it's one of the better knockoffs. I mean, it certainly isn't as bad as something like, The Roommate or The Boy Next Door, which has the very similar type of storyline here, except with different ages involved. But yeah, this movie really is not worth it in the long run. And honestly, you honestly could go watch better movies. Like, there are so many other better movies you'll be watching besides a film like this. I shouldn't even have said an erotic thriller, because this isn't that much of an erotic thriller. You can't really get erotic with a PG-13 rating, honestly. Like, yeah, it's the type of movie that comes out on a weekend when there's literally nothing else of noteworthiness coming out, and just takes whatever it can get and gets the hell on out of here. Because, like I said, this is the type of film that just comes and goes, and is never mentioned again, except in times like this when I'm talking about it when it came out that weekend. So yeah, that is Swim Fan, and I think it was actually if I'm not mistaken, I think it was the #1 movie for 2 weeks in a row, if I'm not mistaken. No, it wasn't. Okay, I'm looking at the thing right now. Yeah, this is one of those movies that definitely comes and goes. So, with that said, let's go ahead and take a look at our last movie that we have here. The only other movie we have here, and that is Robert De Niro, Frances McDormand, and James Franco in City by the Sea. I mean, good cast, decent director. What could go wrong?
Lamarca, I didn't shoot that cop. Lieutenant Vincent Lamarca. You don't have enough to make Joey the prime suspect. I know what you're kidding. There's just one clear choice. I know what could happen to Joey if the wrong cop got there ahead of me.
You're on their side.
Find the real killer. Or lose his son. You know who I am? Academy Award winner Robert De Niro. Academy Award winner Frances McDormand. Golden Globe winner James Franco. If anything happens to him, you'll answer to me. City by the Sea. Rated R. Starts Friday, September 6th.
Oh, dear God, not franchise pictures again. Please, not franchise pictures again. God damn it. Every time, man. Every time when there's a movie that looks that promising, and then that franchise pictures logo comes up, it's just like dead on arrival. Or so you may think with this one. You have Robert De Niro as he's a cop who is dealing with the family problems of a wayward youth played by James Franco, and is set against a man trying to break free of his past. I'm sorry, I said James Franco. I mean Golden Globe Award winner James Franco. Like the Golden Globes are really supposed to mean something. Like Academy Award winners Robert De Niro and Frances McDormand makes a lot of sense. But Golden Globe winner James Franco, like that's the thing that's going to sell the tickets on this one. But like I said, it's got a decent director, Michael Caton Jones. It's an interesting idea. It's a good cast overall. And, truth be told, it's not the worst. It's probably one of the better franchise pictures releases. I mean, this is the same studio that just gave us Fear.com and Driven and, these terrible, terrible movies. And yet this is one of those few little one of those few brief flashes of promise where you look at it and you're just like, this isn't terrible. This is not a terrible film, but this is actually kind of decent. I mean, I'm not going to say it's a great movie by any means necessary, but it's one of the few examples of a movie by the studio that actually have some merit to it. I mean, the acting overall is pretty good. You have a strong cast. It also includes Eliza Dushku, Bill Forsythe, and George DeZundra. But it's an interesting story overall, too. Like, it's a really good family drama, too. Like, Robert De Niro's trying to figure out if James Franco really did what the cops are accusing him of. And you do get involved in the mystery aspect a little bit, but you can kind of, again, it's one of those ones where you can kind of figure out where it's going to go as soon as you figure out some key plot points. But, like I said, it's doing a lot better job of entertaining you than some other franchise pictures movies, and we're kind of in the middle of this little streak here, because after this movie at Fear.com, they're back again a couple weeks later with another movie. But, you know what I think of it as? It's like a sandwich, except that there's a good piece of bread underneath it is in the middle there, but it's sandwiched between two pieces of dog shit. Like you can get, like, if you get like the dog shit is the bread, is like the bread, and like the City by the Sea is like that piece of salami or peanut butter, like in the middle. Like, yeah, you're gonna eat a dog shit sandwich, but you know what? That middle part is gonna be something at least that you can tolerate, at least. But you're still eating dog poop, though. I'm sorry for the dog poop comparisons, but it's just like, I mean, what else am I gonna say? Human poop? I mean, why am I thinking about poop all of a sudden? Maybe it's because I got this one behind me over here. How you doing there, Jax? How you doing there, bud? Okay, he scratched himself right now. But yeah, maybe that's why I've got it. I'm thinking about dog poop right now because this one. But you're not here to talk about that though. But yeah, that's my dog right there. So, but City by the Sea. Back to this movie. Like I said, it's a perfectly fine film. I mean, it's not the worst movie ever, but it's definitely one of those films where it's not the greatest, but considering what the studio has done before with some of the bad movies they've had, and this one actually turns out to be somewhat good, I think I would gladly take that in a New York minute, quite literally, because it's taking us in New York. But so there you go. That's all I got to say about that one. That is City by the Sea.
Barbershop. This thing's gonna be real smooth like Gary Coleman. Do not get this fool started. Where it's not about what's coming up. Bless him. It's about what's going down. From the producers of Soul Food and Men of Honor. Hey, what kind of car is it, man? Camera. Wait, that's a good car. I got one of them. Barbershop. Who wants my apple? Run. PG-13 starts Friday, September 13th.
So this takes place in the day of the life of a barbershop on the south side of Chicago, where you have Calvin, played by Ice Cube, who inherited the struggling business from his deceased father, and he views the shop as nothing but a burden and a waste of his time. After selling the shop to a local loan shark, Calvin slowly begins to see his father's vision and legacy and struggles with the notion that he just sold it out. The barbershop is filled with characters that share their stories, jokes, trials, and tribulations. We have Eddie, an old barber with strong opinions and no customers, played by Cedric the Entertainer. Jimmy, who's a highly educated barber with a superiority complex who can't stand Isaac, the new white barber who just wants a shot at cutting some hair. Ricky is an ex-con with 2 strikes against him and is desperate to try to stay straight. Terry, played by Eve, is a hard-edged woman who can't seem to leave her two-timing boyfriend. And lastly, there's Dinka, a fellow barber who's madly in love with Terry, but doesn't get the time of day. And besides Friday, this is probably Ice Cube's biggest trilogy as a whole. Like, I know there was other attempts to make him have more franchises as a whole, but this and Friday really were the two big, not only money makers, but most memorable trilogies of his. Even though the Friday movies definitely have a lot more flaws to it than the Barbershop movies do, the Barbershop movies as a whole are very, very good. I mean, you do really get attached to these characters so much. They're played very well by these actors, even people that you don't think would be decent actors. I mean, you wouldn't think somebody like Eve would really carry as much as she does in these movies compared to everybody else, but she really gives it her all in these movies. Like, she really is, in this particular movie, she really does stick with people like Ice Cube and Anthony Anderson and Cedric the Entertainer and Michael Ealy and Keith David, and Sean Patrick Thomas, these really good actors as a whole. And for somebody who hadn't really done a whole lot of acting before this, as far as I remember, she does a pretty good job of handling the pressure here, and it works very well. Plus, proof that Tim Story can make some decent movies, even though a couple of his movies most recently have not been the best overall. But, you know, shows right here what this guy could do as a director, and it's mostly working because of what Ice Cube brings to the table. It's not like Friday. It's a very different style of movie compared to the Friday movies. Even though a lot of what makes the best Friday movies work are very much in here, and I think the comedy in here works very well. Like I said, the characters are very well done. It's a really good film. It's a film that's very much. I mean, I don't think it's really underrated as a whole. It was a big hit when it came out. It was actually a big surprise hit because nobody, I don't think, really expected this to do as well as it did, both critically and financially. But of course, it went on to make several sequels out of this. And while the other ones may not be as good as some of the other movies are, but this film definitely is the strongest of the three movies in the series. But like I said, most of the movies, all four of them, honestly, including the spinoffs, are good in their own way. Like Barbershop 2 and the Barbershop spin-off Beauty Shop with Queen Latifah, I thought were pretty good. And I thought the last one, Barbershop The Next Cut, was a surprisingly really good movie, considering it's one of those comedy sequels that I always talk about that comes way too past the point where you can make a pretty good movie out of it. But, you know, 12 years after Barbershop 2, they managed to find a way to make the last movie work very well. It's a really good movie. I really do recommend it. If you haven't seen it and you want to see what these actors can really do when they're given some good material to work with here and the way they work off each other, this movie definitely works on those levels a lot. I think these movies are very good. All of them, I think, are very good, but this one's easily the best of the movies, easily. Barbershop, I highly recommend it. Definitely check it out. So, with that said, let's move on to our next movie, and that is Stealing Harvard.
It's a place that some people
You're a monkey pruning.
could never hope to go. But to pay for it,
I know how you can get the money.
they'll have to give it their best shot.
Is this 100% cotton? We should make up some fake names. I want to be Kyle. Who are you going to be? Steve.
Steve,
Yeah. I want to be Steve. I'm Steve. You're Carl. Kyle! Give us the money. Drop it, sucker. Go. We are so dead.
Stealing Harvard.
See, this is why I need to do more research before I tell you who's in these movies, because I think last week I said Jason Schwartzman was in this movie. He is not. This is Jason Lee, not Jason Schwartzman, even though he was in a movie very similar to this, Slackers, earlier in the year. But this is not him in this movie. It's Jason Lee and Tom Green, and you have a man who turns to a life of crime to pay for his niece's tuition for her first year at a prestigious university. His girlfriend also wants him to pay $30,000 for the down payment of a house, and his buddy is a bad influence on him. So it's very similar to the movie Orange County, which came out earlier in the year, but Orange County was at least much funnier and much cleverer and had a better director behind it. This one, not so much. It's not a bad movie. It's just a movie that it's very hit and miss. It makes sense that this is directed by the same guy that did Superstar, which was a movie that was not bad, but not great either. There were a couple of moments here and there where there could be some funny moments, but most of the movie is just kind of bland and mediocre. That one's a much better movie compared to this film here, but like I said, it's not a bad movie. There is some decent writing to it. One of the co-writers is Peter Tolan, who went on to write for Rescue Me, the Dennis Leary show, after this movie came out. And so there is good writing here, but just it doesn't really feel like they knew what they were doing here. I think this movie was kind of slapped together at the last minute because of how successful Orange County was. Because Orange County was an unexpected hit when that came out early in the year. But that movie was a much better film in general. It had a better cast, it had a better story to tell, better jokes, better director. It was just a far superior film. This, good cast here. Leslie Mann, Dennis Farina, Richard Jenkins, John C. McGinley, Tammy Blanchard, Megan Mullally, Jason Lee and Tom Green. But the jokes really are not there to really carry the load here, and it does run a little bit too long. Even though the film feels like an eternity, it's only 90 minutes long, but it just feels like it's taking forever to get to the part where it's supposed to really get invested in this, and it doesn't happen at all. It's a really bland film that just has nothing of value and merit to it whatsoever, and just really feels like a slap together film at the last minute because of what happened earlier in the year with Orange County. So, yeah, not much more to say about this one. Definitely one I'm probably not going to watch again anytime soon, so that's Stealing Harvard. So let's go ahead and end this on a high note. Let's go ahead and take a look at our last film, Igby Goes Down.
Now I'm very tense about all of Igby's trouble.
Mimi, get out the maid.
Igby Goes Down.
Or you might as well just call this what this really is, the prequel to Succession, because, of course, this is Kieran Culkin, who was also in Succession, and his character in this show and in this movie are very, very similar, to, if you really think about it. But he plays Iggy Slocum, a rebellious and sardonic teenager who attempts to break free of his familiar ties and wealthy, overbearing mother, played by Susan Sarandon. A cast that also includes Claire Danes, Jeff Goldblum, Amanda Peet, Ryan Felipe, Bill Pullman, and Jared Harris are also involved in here. And this is directed by Burr Steers, who directed 17 Again as his next movie, which was the film that made everybody realize, that kid from High School Musical actually could be a good actor someday. And sure enough, he followed that up with a couple of decent films, but we'll eventually get to that one later on. But this is a film that, in a way, is kind of similar to that movie in terms of showing what a kid can do, what a guy can do, that eventually will show what a great actor he really is. Because, this is the film that showed that, hey, Macaulay Culkin's brother actually has some good acting chops on him, and he followed this up with a couple of other movies after this, and the film overall is very, very good, mostly because of the cast involved, a good director, an interesting story. It's a very good, dark, black comedy in a way, and it's a very well-done film. It's a film that has a lot of great elements to it, a lot of really, really insane, over-the-top, dark humor at times, and it's a well-acted film. Everybody here plays their parts very well. The writing overall is top-notch. The visual aspects are very good. It's a very intriguing and very enjoyable film on a number of different levels. A very underrated little gem. If you haven't seen it, definitely check it out, because you're really missing out on something special with Igby Goes Down.
In love with. The chemistry's there. Great movie.
I didn't come here to harangue you.
You laugh, you cry, a lot of fun.
I'm the same color as the Department of Motor Vehicles, and you look like a flower. It's about friendship and just getting wild. Get out of that car! If you laugh, there's something wrong with you. We were groupies.
It's like we're musicians.
And a few roadies.
Fall is starting off with a bang. The Banger Sisters. Rated R. Now playing.
In The Banger Sisters, you have Goldie Hawn and Susan Sarandon, who are two middle-aged women who were once best friends and groupies, reveling in 1960s, 70s hedonism before they lose touch and go their separate ways. Suzette's decision to crash back into her former friend's current and radically different conventional and respectable life is the basis for the humor, where the clash of who they were and now are is the main focus here. The plot considers aging and how people alter with time, whether incidentally Suzette realizing that she's now older than the current musicians, or deliberately to try to find a place in the world as Vinny has, but sometimes losing part of themselves along the way. And this was actually Goldie Hawn's last movie she ever starred in before she returned 15 years later for the Amy Schumer movie Snatch, which was not a good movie, and not because of Amy Schumer. It was because it had a good director behind it. It was just not a good film at all. It was one of those comedies that was trying to become the next, Romance in the Stone, and it was just like, unless you have a good edge to it, if you're trying to recapture the golden days, you got to have something unique and different with it. But I'm talking about Snatch, but this movie we're talking about, The Banger Sisters, is notably directed by Bob Dolman, who was the writer of Willow, of all things, and wrote Far and Away as well. This is his directorial debut, and as far as the film goes, it's alright, I guess. I mean, it's no First Wives Club, where I think that's a movie where you go into it not expecting a whole much, and you come out really enjoying that film. This is just kind of like, you kind of get what you expect to get with this movie. I mean, it's made for the same audience who likes stuff like, The Book Club or 80 for Brady, except this movie is not as bad as those movies are, and this film is just kind of like, it's okay, and it works mostly because of Goldie Hawn and Susan Sarandon. They do really carry a lot of the load of the movie. I think they really do have the best elements to the film itself, but other than that, though, the rest of the movie is kind of generic. It's kind of mediocre. Sometimes the comedy can work here and there, sometimes not so much. The script overall is not really anything too significant. I mean, you can kind of easily predict where everything is going to go right from the get-go, and just kind of right off the bat, it just really does not feel like a film that is really trying to do anything that spectacular or new, but it knows exactly who its target audience is, and I think for the target audience, I mean, it could have been worse, but it certainly could have been a whole lot better. I mean, it's kind of a mid-range film for me. I saw it, thought it was kind of amusing at some points, but it's one I'd probably never watch again, quite honestly. But for what it is, it's fine for what it is. So with that said, let's go ahead and move on to our next movie, and that is, we have reached that point, ladies and gentlemen, the peak of franchise pictures at their high point. Antonio Banderas and Lucy Liu in Ballistic, X vs. Sever.
device created to be the perfect killer.
Injectable. One touch of a button, you can give a head a state of heart attack.
It will take 2 extreme agents to stop it. Antonio Banderas, Agent X.
That's how I deal with the stress.
Lucy Liu, Agent Sever.
Lighter.
Ballistic X vs. Sever. Rated R. Starts this Friday.
Because, as we always say, when you see franchise pictures, you know you're in for a quality movie. Unfortunately, it's a horrible quality film, but it's a quality film nonetheless. You have FBI agent Jonathan X, played by Antonio Banderas, who realizes that he must join forces with his lifelong enemy, Agent Sever, played by Lucy Liu, who's a rogue DIA agent, with whom he's in mortal combat with. And, imagine if Mortal Kombat was made into franchise pictures, how bad that movie would have been. But in order to defeat a common enemy that has developed a micro-device that can be injected into victims in order to kill them at their will. Or the bad guys could just shoot them. That's literally what they're doing in this movie here, and it's literally nothing different at all than what happens in this movie. And, how can you not trust a film directed by somebody who literally calls himself Chaos? Chaos. Chaos. And, I don't know if this is actually based on any source material. I thought it was at first, but I'm looking at the page right now for Wikipedia. They literally have nothing there that says that this is based off of any source material. There were some spin-off video games, but they made video games off of this. They really thought that this was going to be the next big hit. They put $70 million to this movie. This thing was dead on arrival, and you could just tell they had nothing. They had nothing new to say about this movie. There's nothing good about these characters. They're wasting actors like Antonio Banderas and Lucy Liu. The story is just your bland, generic storyline. The action sequences are shot horribly. For some, this could be a so bad it's good type of film. This is a movie that you look at and go, there's no way they thought that this was going to be legitimately a good movie. There's no way whatsoever. And sure enough, this thing drags on. And, again, it's one of those movies that's the runtime's only 90 minutes. So it's mercifully short. But, man, they make you suffer watching this movie. Because, literally, it's a 90-minute movie. We've talked about this with several other movies as of late. It's a 90-minute movie. And yet, it feels like it goes on forever. It just keeps on going. And just never has anything interesting, and it's boring to watch. It's a mess of a movie on so many different levels. How anybody could see this as a so bad it's good movie is beyond me, but there's the audience out there that thinks that. But I barely got through it the first time around. This is just a bad movie. Just Ballistic X vs. Sever. I don't think I need to say too much more about this one that hasn't already been said already. Avoid this one like the plague. So, let's go ahead and try to get back on a positive note here with our next movie, which maybe not too positive, but it's certainly a lot better than the X vs. Sever. It's The Four Feathers.
The Four Feathers on DVD and video. It's a phenomenal cinematic achievement, and the DVD is packed with fascinating extras. Heath Ledger, Wes Bentley, Kate Hudson. The Four Feathers. Bring it home, February 18th.
From the director of Elizabeth, it's actually the follow-up for him. This is set during the British Army's Gordon Relief Expedition from the late 1884 to 1885 in Sudan, well, after the formation of Mahdiyya, Mahdiyya. I'm pretty sure I mispronunciated that one, but it tells the story of a young man accused of cowardice, and the film, with altered plot events, is the latest in the long line of cinematic adaptations of the 1902 novel of the same name. Other versions of the story have been set in the 1890s with different battle events, and you have Heath Ledger, Wes Bentley, and Kate Hudson among the cast of this film. And, we've seen movies like this, and I think a lot of the biggest problems with the film come from pretty much the same thing. On a technical level, it looks really good. The visual aspect of the film looks really good. You can tell that this is made by the same person that made the Elizabeth movies. And the acting overall is fine, I guess, but other than that, though, it's the story that really falls apart, because there's nothing really that interesting about the story in general. In this film's case, there could be a good movie made about this storyline from the novels. There probably is a good movie based off of this that is out there that I just don't know about. But this just feels like they were kind of forced to do it because the producers probably were about to lose the rights to make the story, and so they just said, hey, let's just make what we can, and may not be our best work, but we're at least going to try with it, and this is the end result we got here, and it's just a passable film. I mean, it certainly could have been a whole lot better, but it definitely is not one of those movies where I would say I'd recommend it just for some of the stuff in it. I mean, on a technical level, it looks fine. On an acting level, it looks pretty good. But other than that, though, it's just kind of like, it's one I probably never ever watch again, quite honestly. So, yeah, that's The Four Feathers. Speaking of movies I'll probably never watch again, here's Charlize Theron in Trapped.
In the next 24 hours, everyone she loves
I'm coming to get you.
will depend on everything she's willing to risk. Trapped. Rated R. Opens Friday.
Yeah, just a kind of generic thriller. Charlize Theron stars. It's based off of a novel called 24 Hours and follows a wealthy Portland, Oregon couple whose daughter is kidnapped by a mysterious man and his wife who demand a ransom for unclear reasons. So, it's basically Ransom again with Mel Gibson. Instead of Mel Gibson in the title role, it's Charlize Theron. I mean, quite literally, there's nothing new that they do in this movie that hasn't been done in much better movies. And really, it's so lazy and so uninspired that I honestly don't have too much more to say about this movie. And it's just like nothing about this movie is engaging or interesting whatsoever. And the only good thing that came out of it is that, hey, Charlize Theron won an Oscar the following year for doing Monster, which, makes us completely forget she was ever in this movie. So, I guess that's the only positive thing you could take from that. So, let's go ahead and move on to our next movie. And can we finally get a good movie to talk about, please?
Friday, experience the motion picture phenomenon that has won the Academy Award for Best Animated Feature. Walt Disney Studios presents a Studio Ghibli film from master filmmaker Hayao Miyazaki. Critics have hailed Spirited Away an animation triumph. Imaginative, mesmerizing, and hypnotic, it's the film Roger Ebert proclaims a masterpiece. 2 thumbs up for Miyazaki's Spirited Away. Rated PG in theaters this Friday.
Now we're talking. Hayao Miyazaki's Spirited Away, the first official theatrically released film from Disney for their collaboration with Studio Ghibli, as most of the Studio Ghibli library was actually released through home video first before they eventually went to the big screen with the last couple of films that he had done. But Spirited Away, of course, is the story of a young girl who moves to a new neighborhood, enters the world of kami, who are the spirit of Japanese Shinto folklore. And after her parents are transformed into pigs by this witch named Yubaba, Chihiro takes the job working at Yubaba's bathhouse to find a way to free herself and her parents and return to the human world. This was actually the second film to win the Oscar for Best Animated Feature in a year where there really wasn't that big of a competition there in terms of the Best Animated Feature film, except for Lilo and Stitch. I probably would have said Lilo and Stitch would probably be a close second to this, but Ice Age was also nominated too. But I think mostly because Chris Wedge won the Oscar a couple years before for animated short. But yeah, as much as I love Lilo and Stitch, I could see why this film won Best Animated Feature, and it's really hard not to see why. This movie is an incredible film. It's not only featuring great animation from Studio Ghibli, it's also a classic Hayao Miyazaki movie on a number of different levels. An engaging storyline, a compelling storyline, a lot of great characters, great voice work on the English dub. Speaking of Lilo and Stitch, DeVay Chase actually plays the voice of a young girl in this movie, and the visuals just look incredible. There are scenes in this movie where the music and the animation let the scene play out, and you just get so invested from that alone. That's why animation is so important to me, because animation can do a lot of that stuff on so many different levels that a lot of live-action films cannot do. Most live-action films can't do that, but then there are some that do. It's more recent live-action films, I should say. There are a bunch of examples of live-action films in the past that have scenes like that, but animation just does it so much better, and it's just it's amazing what this film is able to do, and what Studio Ghibli has still been able to do even since this movie came out here in the U.S. I mean, Hayao Miyazaki's still making a lot of movies that are still popular even to this very day. I mean, his last film, The Boy and the Heron, just won Best Animated Feature in a year where I thought Across the Spider-Verse should have won, but I could see why The Boy and the Heron won, because it is a very good film. It's still a really amazing film. Miyazaki does not make a lot of really bad movies. I think his worst film he's ever made was that one CG film they did that I can't remember the title of now for the sake of me. Earwig and the Witch is what it was called. And, you know, it's a movie where they were trying to do something different in terms of, like, the animation style. It was more CG animation than the regular 2D animation, and it just didn't work. Most people really didn't like it, and quite frankly, it's kind of not hard to see why. I think that trying to go for CG animation at this point in the game is just it's just out of their norm for Studio Ghibli, but they've made a lot of great movies. Most of their movies are very enjoyable, with that one little exception, of course, being this film here. But Spirited Away, though, is a masterpiece of a movie. It's one that it took me a while to finally understand why this movie was so important and so incredible to a lot of people. And when I finally got to see it for the first time, I finally figured out why that was. I think it's a great film. It's a very wonderfully told story, animation-wise, visual-wise, story-wise. It's just an incredible, incredible film, and it's one that, if you have not seen a Miyazaki movie, that's probably the first one I'd recommend you check out, because it'll make you want to see what else this guy has done. I mean, most of his movies have worked. This is probably his greatest work as a filmmaker as a whole. Spirited Away, can't recommend this one enough. So, with that said, let's go ahead and wrap the show up with our last movie here. James Spader and Maggie Gyllenhaal in the dark comedy Secretary.
I'm very fond of you.
I'm your secretary.
Experience pain before meeting
He's the best.
Hating something sexual. There are other ways to show your feelings.
We can't do this 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Why not? I've found someone to love in a way that feels right.
Just a scoop of cream potatoes.
4 days.
As much ice cream as you like to eat.
Get me a cup of coffee. You really want to be my secretary?
Yes, I do.
Or as most people, including myself, would like to call it, how to do 50 Shades of Grey the right way. I mean, this movie is the perfect antithesis to 50 Shades of Grey. You have Maggie Gyllenhaal as this secretary, and James Spader as this dominant lawyer who they begin an intense relationship, which includes various types of BDSM activities, such as erotic spanking and pet play, which, I mean, how can you not get invested in a film like this? I mean, I was literally at the right age when this movie came out. It was just like, how can I sneak my way into finally checking out this movie? And it's an incredibly made film. It's a film that's just like, wow, I did not expect this movie to be as memorable as it is now than it was back then, because this movie still holds up after all these years. It's a film that knows this is pure dark comedy at its absolute best, and it's the type of comedy where you look at it and you're just like, why can't we make more movies like this anymore? I mean, this is a film that really is so insane, so over the top, and so ridiculously stupid at times, and you just get so invested in it because you like these characters so much that you also kind of hate them at the same time too. Like, it's a film that knows what to do with a dark comedy concept like this. I mean, it's an incredibly put together film. It's a film that still very much holds up after all these years, and it's amazing this came from the director Aaron Cressida Wilson, who almost 15 years later has just been kind of has made films that have not been that great, most notably The Girl on the Train. And this was the film that's just kind of like, this shows exactly what she can do if she's given the opportunity to write a really good storyline here. It's based off of a short story, too, by Mary Gatzkill. And this director, Steven Shainberg, actually worked with the same team again for Fur a couple years later. But this is a really good movie, man. This is a really, really fun movie. If you're looking for a good, fun, dark comedy that goes over the top and really does not care what you think about that, or more importantly, if you want to see a good version of 50 Shades of Grey, avoid those terrible movies that they made most recently. Watch this movie, and you'll have a much better, enjoyable moments. Let me rephrase that. You'll have a much better time watching this movie than you will ever watching the 50 Shades movies any day of the week. So yeah, that is Secretary for you. So we started off the show slow, but we ended on a fairly good high note.
Oh my god.
Melanie Carmichael is getting married.
Yes, yes.
only one thing standing in her way.
Would you mind if we just kept this to ourselves for a few days?
Her husband.
How can I help
To get down here and give me a divorce.
This February,
you? You're not in love with the same girl.
First Love gets a second chance.
I'm happy in New York, but then I come up here and this too.
Reese Witherspoon, Sweet Home Alabama. Own it on DVD with a bonus alternate ending.
Sorry, it had to be done. But, Sweet Home Alabama, Reese Witherspoon stars as an up-and-rising fashion designer in New York who's gotten almost everything she's wished for in her life since she was little. She has a great career, the JFK-like fiancé of New York City, but when he proposes to her, she doesn't forget about her family back down south. More importantly, her husband back there, who refuses to divorce her ever since she sent divorce papers 7 years ago. To set matters straight, she decides to go to the South quick and make him sign the papers. When things don't turn out the way she planned them, she realizes that what she had before in the South was far more perfect than the life she had in New York City, and blah, 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 blah. How many romantic comedies have we seen with this exact same plot line? And, I guess the noteworthiness about this particular film is that it was actually the first film shot in New York City after September 11th, so I guess there's that. But other than that, though, this movie is something that we've seen done over and over again, and quite honestly, it's really nothing that different. I mean, it's literally the same movie we've seen done over and over again with this exact same plot. You know what's going to happen. Reese Witherspoon's going to realize that, oh, shoot, my life back in the South was actually pretty good. Maybe I should change my whole life again. And then you're going to have the third act breakup, and then you're going to have the realization that, you know, everything that she had before was perfectly fine before she moved to New York, and you know what's going to happen. And unfortunately, the film suffers from a lot of predictability and nothing too new or original with it. And it just falls apart right from the get-go. And yet, with all that said, it was still one of the biggest hits of the year. In fact, at the time, it was actually the biggest September opening weekend of all time, and made over $130 million in the U.S. alone. It made $180 million worldwide, so it only made $53 million everywhere but in the U.S. That should tell you everything you need to know, that even the people around the globe did not really care for this movie, but apparently everybody here in America loved it. And in fact, so much so that it still gets airtime on TV. Like, you can't go on FX or, you know, Freeform every month or so and not see at least one airing of Sweet Home Alabama there. And quite frankly, I just don't get it. Like, I've tried so many times to watch this movie and think, okay, maybe this will be the time I finally get into it. Maybe this will be the one where I see where everybody is coming from. But, nope. Nope, Reese Witherspoon is too good for a movie like this. And sadly, she's made a couple of these movies where she really is giving it too much of her all, despite the fact that the rest of the movie is not really all that great. In fact, the same writer actually wrote, I was about to say a New in Town, which is not a Reese Witherspoon movie, but it's pretty much the same concept as this. I mean, that one had Renee Zellweger in it, and that one was even lazier because it was a lame PG-rated romantic comedy. At least this one had the balls to be PG-13, and like I said, there have been comedies where this has worked before, where you have a predictable storyline, but there's at least an edge to it. The Proposal is a perfect example of that. You have Sandra Bullock and Ryan Reynolds, where they have to go from their city life to a more countryside, not specifically countryside, but more of a laid-back lifestyle than they're used to dealing with here. And you know the tropes are going to be there, but the chemistry between Bullock and Reynolds and the story overall works better in that film's favor compared to this movie here, where there's nothing really all that interesting or engaging, and you can't really get behind any of the two guys that Reese Witherspoon's involved with here. Like Josh Lucas, can't really there's nothing really that great about him. Patrick Dempsey, it's just McDreamy before McDreamy came on Grey's Anatomy, and it's just not a good film. It's just a film that's just so bland, so forgettable, and you expect so much more from the people that are involved in this, but there's just nothing there. I mean, every time I try to watch this movie, I always give it the benefit of the doubt, and then it's never the same thing. It's never anything different from what I had before. It's a lame movie that doesn't really have a whole lot there, and it's just bland. It's a bland movie with too many good people involved, too good of a director involved. This is Andy Tenton, who later will go on to direct a couple of decent films with Hitch, which I thought was surprisingly really good. And he also did Anna and the King before this, but he followed that up with Fool's Gold and then The Bounty Hunter, and then his career kind of took a nosedive after that. So yeah, this should probably be a warning sign to stay away from anything after Hitch. So, but yeah, not much more to say about this one. Sweet Home Alabama, it's just kind of a bland movie. I don't get the appeal of it. Sorry, I just don't get it. So that is Sweet Home Alabama. Let's go ahead and move on to our next movie, which is Jackie Chan and Jennifer Love Hewitt in The Tuxedo.
Jackie Chan can do almost anything. Ow. But when he puts on a $2 billion tux,
Tactical uniform experiment.
he can do everything.
Good job, Chef.
You killed James Brown.
Jackie Chan.
Hey, Carl, my suit.
Jennifer Love Hewitt.
Ah!
The Tuxedo. Rated PG-13. It starts tomorrow everywhere.
Talk about one of the weirdest movies I've ever seen. I remember going to see this movie in the theater, thinking that I was going to get a fun, high-concept, lighthearted comedy where you have, Jackie Chan. It's basically a spy parody that involves in gaining the ability to wear a special tuxedo that gives its wearer special abilities. It also involves a corporate terrorist threatening to poison the United States fresh water supply with bacteria that spills electrolytes into the blood and totally dehydrates the host. Which don't get me wrong, I could have sworn that this was the exact same plot of Doyle's character from the Flintstones of Viva Rock Vegas. The actor who plays Doyle in The Mask, he was in the Flintstones of Viva Rock Vegas, and he had this random subplot where he's just like, I poisoned the watering hole to kill off all the dinosaurs, that type of stuff. Like, I can't remember that actor's name now, but doesn't this sound like the exact same plot from that movie into this movie here? And crazy enough, that's not the weirdest thing that happens in this movie. So many different elements about this movie make no sense whatsoever. There are scenes in this film where things will happen, like, I always love that trope of, like, the cool, hip guy, like the guy who has the original tuxedo, who's in this movie played by Jason Isaacs, who's kind of the parallel to James Bond. Like, every time he wears the suit, he's suave and sophisticated, and nothing bad ever happens to him. But then soon as somebody like Jackie Chan puts it on, like, hey, here's a thing where you can shake your booty. Like, here's a thing where you can, like, go crazy and destroy your house. It's just like I understand that he's putting on the suit for the first time, but it's just like, why would you even have those features on there? I mean, what situations are you going to need that in there to have that happen? And it's just like it makes no. It's a movie that probably has some good concepts overall that could make for a very interesting and engaging film, and yet it really just goes all over the place and just goes. Like, you really have no idea what the hell is going on in this film at times. Like, there are times in this movie where, like, there's one scene I always remember. It's where, Jackie Chan is with this woman, not Jennifer Love Hewitt's character, but he's out at this bar and he meets this woman, and, like, he's like for some reason, I don't remember if I imagined this scene or not, but this scene gets a little too crazy for its own good. So they go up to this hotel room, and these bad guys end up coming after Jackie Chan's character. And, there's a point where, like, she's ready to go. Like, she's ready to just jump on Jackie Chan's character. And then these bad guys come up. And so he decides, he ends up fighting the bad guys with this thing called pants-only defense. And it's Jackie Chan doing Jackie Chan stunts. And in the background, you just hear her go, like she's ready to go. Like, she really wants Jackie Chan in that situation. And it's just the way that scene is shot. And it's just so weirdly put together. And it's just, like, it's one of the weirder scenes in the entire movie that always stuck with me for some reason. I don't know why, but it's just, like, it's a weird movie to say the least. And I guess, to the credit of Jackie Chan, he's the one thing that does carry the movie through. He's doing the action sequences that we know he can do. I mean, he's a master at this type of stuff, but everything else about the movie just feels so weirdly put together and so off on so many levels. Like, it just doesn't feel like the pieces were there to make something really, really unique and incredible here. I mean, there's possibilities there. You could have a really fun parody comedy, maybe something on the lines of something like a Kung Fu Hustle that came out a couple years later, and I think did this whole concept here kind of a little bit better than this movie, because with that being a parody of mostly martial arts movies, and this one being a parody of spy films. But I don't know. I think this probably needed another rewrite with probably a better director involved, maybe a better screenwriter overall to finally show what the possibility of this can really be. Because from what I got from this movie here, there really wasn't a whole lot there that I remember being that great. I mean, Jackie Chan's probably the only one thing about the movie that really carries the load. I don't really buy his chemistry with Jennifer Love Hewitt. Jennifer Love Hewitt's not bad in the movie, but she's just kind of in there to be the token love interest. And again, it kind of falls into predictable territory. You know there's going to be the liar reveal. You know there's going to be something that happens where the big twist comes out of nowhere that you can kind of figure out coming a mile away. And by the end, you just feel kind of like, I have no idea how I feel about this, except the fact that I saw it. I don't really have too much more to say about it, except that I saw it. It's a movie that, I can't say it's a bad movie, but I can't say it's a great movie either. It's a largely forgettable film. Like, I watch it once, it's like, okay, I watched it once. I will probably never watch this again in full length again. I mean, it's just, I don't know. It's just one of those ones that, for some reason, stuck with me for some scenes, but nothing in particular I would say is something that you must check out. I guess if you're a die-hard Jackie Chan fan, maybe it's worth a one-time watch, but you're never going to watch this again after the first time. So, yeah, not much more to say about that one. That's The Tuxedo. Let's go ahead and move on to our last movie, which is Moonlight Mile.
Are hailing Moonlight Mile as hands down one of the very best films of 2002. 4 stars. It's an Oscar-worthy, exhilarating movie-going experience. Moonlight Mile, rated PG-13, starts Friday in select cities.
Third straight week looking at a movie with Susan Sarandon. I just realized that. We had Igby Goes Down a couple weeks ago, then The Banger Sisters, and now this. So I thought that was kind of amusing. But you also see Dustin Hoffman and Jake Gyllenhaal in there. The movie is based off of Brad Silberling's own experience dating Rebecca Schaefer, who, if you don't remember her, she was on the show My Sister Sam, and she was killed by an obsessed fan in 1989. So this is, I guess this is a story about that, where you have a young man who lingers into the family home of his fiancée after her accidental death, and while grieving along with her parents and drawn into legal issues presented by a district attorney seeking justice for the family, he finds himself falling in love with another woman against his own best intentions. This is directed, like I said, by Brad Silberling, who gave us Casper and also City of Angels, and also features a cast that includes Holly Hunter, Ellen Pompeo, pre-Grey's Anatomy, Dabney Coleman, Richard T. Jones. Good actors involved here, and not a bad movie per se. Definitely not a melodramatic film that would probably be considered as too cliched riddle or Oscar bait, or even a movie like but I can't really say it's a great film either. It's just kind of like, it's fine for what it is. I think the performances overall are very good. I think the idea is very interesting and leads to a lot of potential enjoyment here, and there is some enjoyment in here. It does run a little bit too long, just a little bit over 2 hours. A story that feels like you could probably trim about 10 minutes off of it, and it probably would have been fine. As far as the rest of the film itself goes, it's just a fine film. It's nothing too significant, nothing too incredible that I would say is a must-see film. But, I mean, it's just fine for what it is. It definitely could have been a whole lot better, honestly, but it's not the worst thing I've ever seen. It's definitely one where I would say, kind of like with The Tuxedo, you watch it once, and it's really not going to leave much of a lasting impact on you, but you feel like this director's made so many other better movies. But there are some good elements to it, from the casting and the writing. The direction overall is probably the best thing about it, honestly, along with the casting in it. So, again, fine for what it is, but definitely could have been a whole lot better. I mean, it certainly could have been much worse, too. So, that is Moonlight Mile.